happy to bring together these readers, Annika, Hansteen-Izora, Juhea, and Armin Tolentino. And we are happy to bring together all of you in this room and those who are joining us virtually. So I'm gather in this space. It's important for me as a settler to say that we're gathered on the unceded traditional homelands of the Multnomah, Catalamic, Clackamas, and Tumwater, and Watlala Cascade bands of the Chinook, as well as the Tualatin, Kalapuya, and many other recognized and unrecognized indigenous nations of the Columbia River. And in order to live stream, we're using digital resources, including high-speed internet, not available in many indigenous communities. And we hope this acknowledgement isn't just words, but an invitation or reminder to learn about and hold in mind the specific broken promises on which the city and state rest, and to find ways to concretely and materially support indigenous sovereignty and the return of land.
That's right.
And to say all of this with the intention also to make good use of this time. Before we get started, we want to thank Lance, Cleland, and Tin House for their generosity in opening the space. And thanks to each of you on policy and looking out for each other. Many of you are probably here, although actually this may not be true, judging by the size of the crowd, but I was going to say that many of you are probably here because you know one of the readers or one of us, which is a great reason for being here. But we hope all of you come back. We'll be here on the third Thursday of every month this year, except July and December. And we'd like to see you again. The reading order is going to be Annika, Juhea, Armin. We're going to take a break between the second and third reader. And after their reading, the upstairs mask optional space will be open for mingling. There's also like food and beverages up there, to put it mildly.
Oh,
So, without further ado, Juhea will introduce Annika Hansteen-Izora.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Jessica. I'd just like to echo Jessica's thanks to Lance and to Tin House. They have been so amazing to work with and actually reached out to us about hosting the reading series here because they really are dedicated to community and being in the community and wanted to open this amazing space to all of us. Lance has met with us numerous times and has really just trusted us and empowered us to do what we want, which has been really sweet and such an honor. So thank you, Tin House, and thank you, Lance. I love you, Jessica. Jessica's such a good person, and it's been a delight to work with her. And all this. Okay. I just want to Hansteen-Izora. I know Annika from before I knew they were a writer and doing all this amazing work in the community. I started working at a user experience design firm after I worked at PCC, and Annika was there, and I was like, oh, this is cool, smart and funny. And I just thought the world of them there. And then they go back and forth between Portland, where they grew up, and New York. So right before they were moving to New York, I found out that they were a writer and that they're like the co-founder of Black Feast. And I was like, wait, what? And then they left. I'm so excited that you're here with us, Annika. Annika is the author of Tenderness, an honoring of my queer Black joy and rage, and co-creator of Friendship Experiments, to be released as a book and video series exploring queer, trans, and POC friendship. They founded Black Feast, a culinary event that celebrates Black artists and writers through food. Annika has been featured by the Creative Independent, It's Nice That, Well and Good, Vogue, McNay Art Museum, New Public, Buffalo, and many others. They've hosted speaking engagements at Princeton, Carnegie Mellon, Leeds Arts University, Creative Mornings, Mid Public, Afrotectopia, the Fashion Institute for Technology, the Brooklyn Museum, and many other spaces. Please welcome Annika.
Oh my God. Intros always make me so embarrassed for no reason. Truly. But I'm so excited to be sharing space with all of y'all. I want to do a hearing check because I'm actually hard of hearing. Can the folks in the back hear me okay? All right, okay. I'm seeing like a hand in it too though. So let's see. Is that better? Hey, all right. Everybody to be. My name is Annika. I feel really blessed to be able to be sharing space with folks that are into writing. Because those are the most dope folks, in my opinion, honestly. I'm gonna begin with a question, actually. Did anybody cry this week? Yeah. Did anybody cry in public? Folks, onto the way that crime in public is a power move. I really believe it will really break in the fourth wall. I'm really proud of all of us that cried today. We're proud of. Go off. But I wrote a book in the past year called Gender News. I'm very proud of this little sweetie book because I had to work with a lot of imposter syndrome to do it. And today I actually want to read a prose piece on time because I've been thinking about, it's the start of the new year. There's a lot of new year, new you kind of energy, like get your goals, get your strategy together. And I've just been like, no. I have not been in the mood. I've been attempting to take the path of slowness. So I'm going to read this prose piece. And while it is outside of what is in this book, it's here. I have 10 copies of it if anyone would like to cop because it's sold out everywhere because we're working on the second edition that's coming out in spring. So you can wait for that, or you can copy this with me upstairs afterward. But I'm gonna adjust this mic and I'm gonna do into this reading. Bear with me first. Y'all take a deep breath with me. Yes, beautiful. All right. Oh, hi. Nice to see you here. I hope that however your emotional weather is cast today, you've been able to find a moment to walk with tenderness. I hope you've been able to be with slow. Lately, I've been wanting less of what do you need and more, here's how I can care for you. What I have space to offer you, listener, is a pause. I invite you before listening further to take into account your body and how it's arriving to this space. May upon taking that pause, you find you'd actually like a glass of water or a pillow behind your back or to sit closer to a window. Maybe you'd like to come back to this later. Maybe you're ready to listen on. If ready, here, take this seed. While we walk, plant it wherever you'd like to return to so that it can be tended to and grow. And thanks as always for being here. This one's on time. Where does time slow for you? Where does it twist? Time eases for me when I'm near water. This past week, I've been going to the beach almost every day as an evening ritual. There's the common phrase to be lost in time. When I'm near water, I don't feel lost to time, but rather time is kinder. It honeys. It's always been this way between water and I. We find safety and memory in each other in all forms, whether tears or oceans. In her book Undrowned, Alexis Pauline Gumbs writes, trust that all water touches all water every year. Water is past and present and future. It's a conductor of memory where all time is happening at once. I step into the waves in Ocean Beach, San Francisco, and feel the same tides that held me as a kid learning to swim. Feel the same drops that my great-great-grandmother once showered her garden with in 1920s Oakland. Feel the same water I'll use to care for my homie when they ask if they'd like a glass tomorrow. Poet Dion Brand once wrote in a poem, I do not believe in time. I do believe in water. Where does time water for you? Where do its waves overlap? Notice the ways capitalism organizes time. Notice its undercurrents in language. How are you spending your time?
Yeah.
Don't waste your time. Let's save time and go this way. There's a history to capitalism fixing time to its own metronome. I learned through the work of the organization Black Quantum Futurism that time zones, something I'd only ever imagined as default to history, were in fact created in the 1880s by railroad companies. At this point in American history, the railway system was providing a literal engine to the expanding US empire. Railways allowed America's newly industrialized economy to colonize further distances and expand its reach at a quickened pace. Railroad companies, which were some of the largest slaveholders in the South, created time zones to make railway scheduling easier. Because the expansion of the US empire was powered by railway networks, the government later accepted the time construct as law for the benefit of profit. Time was colonized to support the accumulation of capital. The construction of time zones is just one of the many points in history where the meaning of time changed to describe a relationship with and outside of profit. And that meaning continues to reverberate politically, culturally, and interpersonally. It is in our best interest to question capitalism's metronomes and the way it arranges time, both structurally and interpersonally. It's in our best interest to study the alternative clocks that have long existed. I'm curious about CP time, CRIP time, Black and Indigenous frameworks of time, pandemic time, jazz constructs of time, and the never-ending riff, how time moves with trauma anniversaries, how time moves with grief, queer time, the alternative timelines plants offer in their cycles of life and death. It is in our best interest to offer curiosity in the ways we can each construct our own clocks. I want to imagine with you a time where slow time is beautiful. I want a timeline that is blurrier and fuzzier than the linear arrow of time that I've been taught is the best and only way. I want time that expands and rings like the radio way my grandmother tells me stories, how she tells it across months in bits and pieces that overlap, a process that requires my commitment to patiently listen over months or years if I ever want to hear the whole tale. I'd like to imagine a space where time is treated like we are gardens rather than machines, where time is attuned to our individual needs, where time is given consistently, given softly, given with care. If you had a clock, what would it measure time by? My time, my clock moves in the direction my homie and I decide to take a walk today. My clock ticks every time my great-grandmother told my grandmother, I love you. My clock measures time at the speed that I can exhale with ease. Lately, my love language has been the text, take your time, no rush in responding. I recently received a question in an email that ended with, please let this invite simmer. I'm grateful to everyone that insists in small ways that time can be generous. The other day, I interviewed my grandmother on her relationship with plants. We sat in the living room she grew up in, surrounded by the garden she's created both in and outside her home. She told me about her mother and how she always gardened, and how in the 1920s, her grandmother built a garden and a koi pond in her Oakland home after moving with her family from Louisiana. And I wonder if my great-great-grandmother, a shipyard worker, a Black woman that built herself and her community a place of serenity in the form of a garden, knew that from her one day choosing to carry water to soil, that this would lead to a someday that smells like peaches and frankincense, where her granddaughter, her great-great-granddaughter would be in a room together talking about plants and the ways we look to them and care for ourselves and the people we love. Whether she did or not, I thank her anyway, because the lesson still holds true. Time reverberates, time is care, time is water. Now, do you remember the seed I offered you in the beginning? I'm planting mine here. I'm planting it with the hope that we commit to learn to hold ourselves and each other softly. I'm planting it with the wish that we learn the future is brightest where independent care networks are guarding. I'm planting it with knowing that great networks take great time, that a wider margin of freedom is possible in every act tending we commit to. Do you believe in my smallness? I believe in yours. And in our collective smallness, I see oceans. I see water that we can use to make this seed here grow, to call in the future that's long been growing by movements that had existed before you and I were ever here. Thank you.
Yeah.
And yes, say hi after the show.
Amazing. Land with you in the most important ways. I would feel like a little changed and maybe a little healed in that. Thank you, Annika. Next, I am really excited to introduce Juhea Kim. Shout out to my friend Kathy, if you're watching the live stream. I have a friend from Michigan where I grew up who texted me one day and was like, I just read the best book. I think it might be my favorite book of all time. You have to read it. It's called The Little Land. And she sent me the cover and raved about it. And I saw the cover, which is beautiful. Do you want to hold it up? My favorite cover. And so I bumped it up on my list of things to read and just read through it. I love it so much. I'm a Korean adoptee. I'm basically a sold and purchased imported person who lost connection to my country of origin. And so reading a book like Juhea's book that is set in Japanese occupied Korea, where I get to learn my history and learn about where I come from and how I got here. Adoption has a deep history of imperialism and patriarchy and extreme poverty. So to read in such detail this book is deeply impactful. So it's an honor for me to introduce you. Juhea Kim was born in Incheon, Korea, moved to Portland, Oregon at age 9. She graduated from Princeton University with a degree in art and archaeology and a certificate in French. If you follow her on Instagram, she was reading in French the other day. It was pretty impressive. Her debut novel, Beasts of Little Land, was named a finalist for the 2022 Dayton Literary Peace Prize and Best Book of 21 by Harper's Bazaar, Ms. Real Simple, and Portland Monthly. It's being translated and published around the world. Juhea is donating a portion of the proceeds of Beasts of a Little Land to the Phoenix Fund, the Siberian Tiger and Amur Leopard Conservation. Thanks. She did it. I didn't know that. She feels her writing with vegan mac and cheese, and she fried rice and.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming here. This is my debut novel, of which I am very proud, and I thought very hard about what I was going to read because I read all sorts of things, short, long, fiction, nonfiction. And although I am best known for my novel, I have read this at public readings quite a few times, and my short fiction doesn't get nearly as much exposure. So in the limited amount of time that I've been given, I think it might make a little bit more sense to do short fiction that way you can get closure. I could read a little bit of this and then make you curious about the next part and then make you go buy some. But I'm just gonna read from my short story Cockroach, which was published in Massachusetts Review last year. And I chose this because this was inspired by my childhood growing up in Portland in the 90s. And I went to a school called Valley Catholic. I actually went there from St. Mary of Oregon, grade school, all the way through middle school and high school. It's located probably on the border between Beaverton and Hillsborough, at the cross section of Canyon Road and Murray Boulevard. And if you have been to that area, I think some of the details here might make a little bit of sense. Cockroach. My name is Dee Dee and I'm 11 years old. D-E, capital D-E. It's not short for anything. My dad's name is Bobby and that's not short for anything either. Our names are similar, both made of two of the same consonant sounds. Bobby, D-D. If I had a mom or a sister or a brother, they'd be named like G-G or K or J. Names so simple, they're basically just letters in the alphabet. But I don't have any brother or sister, and my mom left when I was 5. I don't really remember much about her except she smelled powdery and soft. She sends me cards twice a year, once on my birthday and once at Christmas, with a $5 bill folded inside. I put her cards in a shoebox under the bed and hide the money in my diary with a little lock and key. I keep the diary in my underwear drawer and the key in a secret place, as if I tell you. So is it just me and Bobby pretty much this whole time? I've been calling him Bobby since I was like 8. He doesn't mind, he thinks it's funny. There was only one time when I called him Dad, and it was when I found a cockroach in my room. I was about to fall asleep when I saw a cockroach the size of my big toe right there on the wall above my head. It was my first time seeing one, so I didn't even know what to call it. I jumped out of bed and yelled out loud, "Bobby, there's a huge bug in my room." I was totally freaked out, but Bobby stayed in the living room and was like, "So what, just kill it." And I was like, "No, this one is freaking huge, I can't kill it." And for some reason, Bobby said, "Only if you say please." So I said, "Please come kill this bug." And he said, "Say, please, Dad." This whole time, the cockroach was spinning around in circles on the wall above my pillow. And I thought for sure it would let go of the wall and drop onto my bed. I screamed, "Please, Dad, stop." And at that moment, Bobby lazily walked into the room with the rolled catalog, took a few seconds swinging it lightly back and forth in the air, and then smashed it down on the cockroach just when it stopped spinning. Half of it fell on my pillow and the other half exploded onto the wall, smearing it with crazy blue blood. I've never seen anything so sick as a cockroach with blue blood, and I hope you never have to. The cockroach was a new thing since moving to Sir Charles Court, which is not an English castle or anything, but an apartment complex on the west side of town next to the car dealerships. We're like 2 blocks and a train track behind Honda. There's a Denny's next to Honda that Bobby takes me to sometimes. We always order chocolate chip pancakes and the appetizer sampler, onion rings, those fries that look like tic-tac-toe, mozzarella sticks, and chicken strips, and split both of them. But that's only like every other Friday when Bobby gets paid, and some of those Fridays he doesn't come home until really late at night. When he does come home, he reeks. Reek means stinking really bad, and I found that it's the best word to describe Bobby's smell on those nights. I would be lying in bed with the lights all turned off, eyes closed, but only pretending to be asleep. Bobby would open my door and say something like, Dee Dee, my little baby weasel, daddy's home, and kneel by my bed and give me dozens of wet, berry kisses. I would keep my eyes shut and turn toward the wall, away from him. But about 2 years ago, that kind of stuff stopped happening, I think because of two things. One day, all of a sudden, my nipples started itching and hurting. At first, I thought they were mosquito bites, although it was weird that I get bit on both sides at the same time. One night, when we were watching TV, I scratched them over my teeth for about good 30 seconds. Bobby frowned and said, "That's disgusting, Dee Dee. Don't do that in front of me." I was like, "What? They're just mosquito bites." But I stopped scratching. I didn't really feel good hearing Bobby say disgusting. Then 2 or 3 months after that, Bobby gave me $20 and told me to go buy myself a bra. So after school the next day, I walked over to Kmart that's halfway between school and home. I went to the lingerie section and ran my hands over the bras on their plastic hangers. Most of the straps were twisted together, so you had to pick off 2 or 3 bras at the same time and then untangle them for like 5 minutes. It was so super annoying. Then a counter lady with fluffy, feathery hair asked me if I needed help. She was one of those older ladies who wear chunky jewelry made of wood and stone, which don't actually make anyone look prettier, but it's the thought that counts, I guess. No, thanks. But she asked if I was by myself and then told me I needed a full-on A cup. I got a plain white bra that was 32A and cost $13.99 plus tax. I crossed the huge parking lot and got back on Valley Road, which is the long east-west road where most of the places I know are on. There is my school on the eastern end, then the strip mall with a diner, a nail salon, an Indian restaurant, and Save Lots. A little farther west, there's Kmart, then a walled neighborhood of houses called Twin Oaks. This is where most of the kids at my school live. After the stretch of houses, that long sidewalk ends where there is an overpass of some sort, and you have to walk pretty careful on that narrow strip between the weedy ditch and the car lane. About 5 minutes later, the sidewalk begins again and you pass by Toyota, Hyundai, Ford, Chrysler, and then Denny's. When I reach Honda, I take a left and walk a few more blocks, and that's our apartment. When I got back, I put the rest of the money in my diary. Soon after that, Bobby brought Diamond home. At first, she just came over sometimes at night, and the 3 of us would have breakfast in the morning, and then she would leave. It was honestly a little weird at first, but she whipped up these amazing biscuits and pancakes from Bisquick, and she could make those on school mornings because she didn't have to go to work until late. Diamonds smell like cigarettes, hairspray, and this perfume in a metallic bottle called Curve. She said her best quality was that she was self-made. Her mom and dad were also a bunch of hicks, but look how well she turned out in spite of. When she wrapped her wet hair in a tight turban and rubbed deodorant hard into her armpits, she looked like she was challenging the day to come at her. Diamond was the first person who ever told me I was pretty. She also said that I'll have a great body when I grow up. I don't remember what words she used, but that was the gist. I liked her for that, and Bobby liked her a lot too. He seemed more relaxed around her and smiled more. He also drank less. Eventually, she moved in with us, and of course, Bobby never came over to my bed and gave me boozy kisses after that. That was probably for the best, but sometimes I miss being kissed and held. To be honest, I don't really remember what it feels like. Like I said, though, it was overall nice having Diamond around. Before, I ate ramen noodles or bread and jam for dinner if I was home alone. If Bobby was around, we'd have McDonald's or Taco Bell. Bobby didn't know how to make anything except cereal. Diamond was a mean cook, though. She made us things like lasagna, hamburger casserole, tuna casserole, chicken cheese broccoli casserole, mac and cheese, sloppy joes, and chili with cheese over rice when it was cold out. She made sure we had milk and paper towels at home and forced us to eat at a table instead of on the couch. On the table, next to a casserole of some sort, Diamond would put a gallon jug of milk and a roll of paper towels and yell at Bobby and me if we didn't take a piece from it periodically to wipe our mouths. With Diamond around, 5th grade turned out to be a good year. School was just okay because I had Mr. Hopkins, and he was pretty weird. He wore rimless glasses and shirts that fit a little too tight to look right on a teacher. Also, I heard he's a pervert, which I'm pretty sure means someone who looks at things he's not supposed to. Tamara swore he stared at her boobs all through 5th grade, though I couldn't tell, and he wasn't really creepy to me. He didn't pay much attention to me, to be honest, and none of the other kids did either. There were only about 20 girls in the entire grade, and they were all in groups according to what they did. There was the volleyball team like Tamara, Becky, and Heather. The girls who did ballet like Claire, Josie, and Samantha. Rich girls like Tiffany, whose dad owned a car dealership, and Leah, whose dad was a dentist. Smart girls like Nora and Sonia. I didn't belong to any of those cliques, but that was okay because I didn't really care about school anymore. Between 5th and 6th grade, I grew through it 3 inches and gained 10 pounds. In July, I turned 11, and my bones ached when I lay down in my bed at night. I told Bobby how much it hurt, and he said it was called growing pains and that I should stop complaining. That summer, Bobby was pretty irritable and antsy, and he and Diamond started bickering a lot. Then in August, he got laid off from his construction job. I didn't like being with him in the apartment all day in the dead of summer. He was always either trying really hard not to be a downer or being a downer, and sometimes he started drinking in the middle of the day. Diamond stopped making casseroles, and she often said things like, "I can't live like this anymore." I was glad to be going back to school just to get out of the apartment. 6th grade was the first year of junior high, though pretty much everyone from 5th grade came over together, so it wasn't that different, just slightly bigger. Now that there were more kids, I felt even more like a loner, but I really liked my homeroom teacher, Miss Bird. She wore pastel print dresses and crocheted sweaters, and she smelled like what I imagine a field of flowers to smell. During the 2nd week of school, I went up to her after class and said, "Miss Bird, you have the nicest smell of anyone I've ever known." I don't know why I said that, except I thought she should know. "Thank you, Dee Dee, that's so sweet. I think it's my perfume," she said, smiling. "What perfume is it?" I asked. "It's Elizabeth Arden Sunflowers. You want to try it?" I nodded, and she opened her desk drawer and took out a clear perfume bottle filled with a light golden liquid. She spritzed the inside of my right wrist, and I thanked her and ran out of there so I wouldn't have to keep making conversation. Miss Bird was also special because when someone answered something correctly in class, she looked at that kid straight in the eyes and gave a big thumbs up, even while moving on to the next point without breaking the flow. And flow was another one of her things. She said any one of us could be amazing at anything if we just focus and let things flow out of us without distracting ourselves. She was full of things like that, stuff I'd never heard about or thought about. To be honest, I didn't really understand half of them, but the half that I did understand made me want to do more, like go for a run or something. I tried to do my best in my classes, especially in a subject, which was math. I started with mostly B's in September, and by October, I was getting mostly A's. Miss Bird noticed too, and she gave me lots of silent but meaningful thumbs up in the middle of class in front of all the other kids. So it was strange that just when school started getting better for me, things at home went downhill. I want to say that this is ironic, but my English teacher, Mrs. Danielson, would say that it's not. Anyway, Bobby hadn't found another job, and every time I saw him and Diamond together, they were yelling at each other. Mostly it was Diamond yelling at him that he should get off his ass and go find a job, and him just repeating, "Shut up, shut up." Diamond wasn't going to live like this, and she deserved better, she said. Bobby was mostly silent. I just tried to make myself small and invisible in my room. Then it was the week of Thanksgiving. I had no idea what we were going to do. The year before, Diamond, Bobby, and I had gone to Save Lots together and picked out a frozen turkey that was the exact size and hardness of a soccer ball. Diamond had also made this killer green bean casserole that was doused in cream of mushroom soup and topped with crispy onion legs. This time around, no one said anything about going grocery shopping, and the fridge was totally empty the night before Thanksgiving. Diamond was not around, Bobby was asleep on the couch, and I ate some bread with jam for dinner. The next morning, I was relieved to hear Diamond taking a shower in the bathroom. I realized that a part of me had been worried that she'd left for good. I went to the living room where Bobby was stuck to the sofa, reeking of beer. I shook his shoulders and said, "Bobby, wake up! It's Thanksgiving. Let's go to Save Lots and pick up a turkey before they close." He groaned a little, releasing clouds of reek into the air. "Leave me alone," he said. The sound of water in the bathroom stopped, and then there was a grrr sound of the shower curtain being drawn back. "Come on, it'd be a surprise for Diamond," I said, still shaking his shoulders. He burrowed his head into the couch and swatted at my hands. Just then, there was a piercing scream from the bathroom. I jumped and Bobby sat up too. Diamond came out of the bathroom in a towel and slammed the door behind her. She shrieked at Bobby. There's a fucking cockroach in the bathroom. Bobby just sort of looked back at her, still a little sluggish. Go kill the fucking cockroach, Diamond shouted. All right, Bobby said calmly, but only if you say please. I wanted to smack Bobby and tell him to knock it off because I knew it wouldn't go over well. Diamond was turning bright red, almost shaking from her wet head to her toes. What the fuck did you say? If you say please, I'll go kill the cockroach. In a flash, Diamond picked up the thing nearest to her, which was the cordless phone, and hurled it at Bobby. It hit him hard in the head, and he yelled, "Motherfucker! I'm so sick of you. I'm not going to stick around cleaning up, cooking, taking care of you while you drink yourself to death. Taking care of you and your grown-ass daughter, who don't do shit around. I mean, look at this place. It's a fucking shithole. Leave Dee Dee out of it, you stupid bitch," said Bobby. She's fucking 11. I was basically grown at that point. Grown, as in a little prostitute? Get out, you whore. Fuck you. I would have saved this cockroach-infested shithole even if you begged me on your knees. She stormed out of the living room and into their bedroom. 10 minutes later, she came out with 2 suitcases. She didn't look at me. She just went straight to her car and drove off. Bobby got up from the couch, went to the bedroom, and closed the door. I really wanted to pee, but I was too scared to go inside the bathroom. When I couldn't hold it in anymore, I rolled up one of Diamond's magazines, quickly opened the bathroom door, and slipped in. The cockroach was on the floor next to the toilet, lying super still like it was playing dead. I aimed for a second and then slammed the magazine down, but I missed, only sending the cockroach into a frenzied run. I whacked at it frantically, then after 4 or 5 tries, finally smashed it against the floor and it broke into a few pieces. I knew it was dead because one long antenna had come off and bounced to the other side of the toilet. I balled up a paper towel and picked up all the separate pieces one by one without looking at any of them very closely. I kept trying to flush the crushed cockroach down the toilet, but for some reason, it still floated back up with the rush of new water like it was haunted. It finally went down after the 3rd time and I quickly lowered my pants. Once my butt was on the toilet seat and I could let go of the pee, I also started crying like I couldn't let loose one liquid without the other. I didn't think things could get much worse after Thanksgiving, but the joke's on me because they did. Bobby was even more depressed since Diamond had left and he'd run out of unemployment. When I'd come home from school, he'd just be asleep on the couch. We didn't have any food in the fridge. I was really hungry and thought a lot about Diamond's lasagna or chicken strips at Benny's. On the last day of school before winter break, I took out my savings from my diary and I counted it, which came out to $41.58. After school, I walked over to Kmart. I made my way to the perfume counter and picked up the tester bottle of Elizabeth Arden sunflowers. I spritzed my inside wrist with it and closed my eyes so I could pretend I was somewhere else. In a field of sunflowers, I suppose. I'm not really even sure what that would look or feel like, but I guess it's like smelling the scent. Happy and relaxed. The 1.7 ounce bottle was $29.50 plus tax, and the 3.3 ounce was $39.50 plus tax. And there was a Christmas sale coupon for 15% off all perfumes. I had more than enough money to buy the big size. But I put the tester back on its glass tray and walked out of Kmart. I went backward 1 block to Save Lots and bought as much groceries as I could for $41.58. I bought potatoes, pepper jack cheese, cheddar cheese, milk, Sunny D, bread, jam, peanut butter, canned beans, frozen peas and carrots, boxes of hamburger helper, macaroni, spaghetti, tomato sauce, and ground beef. I put about half of it in my backpack and carried the other half divided into 2 plastic bags and walked back home. When I reached the apartment, I noticed Bobby's car wasn't in the parking lot. I went inside, but he wasn't stuck to the couch or the bed as he'd been for the past 3.5 months. I put away the groceries and ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with milk. I picked up some dirty clothes from around the apartment and started cooking at 6. I'd never made a casserole before, but I'd seen Diamond make them enough times to sort of understand the basic rules. I thought mac and cheese might be easier than lasagna, so that's what I made. It went inside the oven looking pretty decent. I pulled it out of the oven at 7 and let it rest on the counter. Bobby still wasn't home and I was getting worried. I started to read in my bed and then fell asleep. I woke up with a start and looked at the time. It was a little past 10. I put on my jacket and went out to the front door and stood with my elbows on the railing of the outdoor hallway connecting the second floor apartments. Some windows and parts of the railing were outlined in twinkle lights put up by neighbors with more initiativeness. There were also hints of Christmas trees behind half-closed blinds. It got me wondering if there was someone who could see into all these yellow windows, all the apartments with or without trees, like millions of twinkle lights. Someone looking at all the people eating dinner, putting their kids' drawings on the fridge, wrapping gifts, watching TV with mugs of hot cocoa. Even if this person existed, I was sure I would be invisible. That would be my secret superpower, I guess. The moon was already halfway across the sky when I saw a car turn into the parking lot. It was Bobby's old green Volvo, one-eyed headlight and all. I flew down the stairs and ran to the car before it was even completely parked. He stepped out of the driver's seat, not drunk, not dead. I threw my arms around his shoulders and yelled, "Bobby, where were you? I thought you left me." And I cried and I cried. "Dee Dee, baby weasel," Bobby said, patting my back. "I'm here, it's okay, I'm here." I couldn't stop crying, and he opened the door of the back seat and said, "Here, baby, I brought you home your favorite dinner, chicken strips and chocolate chip pancakes from Benny's." "With what money?" I asked. "I got a job today. A buddy of mine from the last company referred me to his new boss, and it starts next week. I have to go to a bar with that buddy to buy him drinks after what he'd done for me. I didn't have dinner though, so we can eat together. We can celebrate." We went upstairs to our apartment. Bobby was surprised that I made a mac and cheese, and he said it was the best he'd ever had. We both knew he meant it was better than Diamond, but we didn't say her name. And also, that just wasn't true. It was still really good and cheesy, even cold. I worried that it was way too much food for just the two of us, but we ate everything until we couldn't eat anymore. Afterwards, I collapsed on the bed, feeling too much of everything. It was just so much to take in on one day. Sometimes I feel like I've had both too much and too little happen in my life, if that even makes sense. Maybe what I mean by that is I've had a lot of negatory stuff happen and not enough of the happy, relaxed stuff that is like sunflowers. I wish from now on that it will be the other way around, that with every grade, it just keeps getting better, and that Bobby and I stay together as a family, no matter what. The hallway is dark now, and he shouts, "Good night, Dee Dee," from his bedroom. I get this strange feeling like I'm already missing his voice, except it will be years and years before I stop hearing his good nights. "Good night," I shout back with gusto, then mumble, "Dad," into my pillow. When I close my eyes, I see among millions of twinkle lights, just one yellow square with us two inside. Thank you. And then a lot of cuss words came out. It took a dark turn. And I could hear this, like, so much cuss words. But yeah, as I said, growing up in the 90s in Portland sometimes felt like this. So thank you. Thanks for hearing.
Wow. So far, Juhea and I were talking and we were thinking about foregoing the break because we're a little bit ahead of schedule, if that's all right. Okay. Awesome. So that's okay with you. Our next reader is Armin Tolentino. Woo! Woo! Armin earned his MFA at Rutgers University in Newark and is the author of "We Meant to Bring It Home Alive" from Alternating Current Press. His poetry has appeared in Hyphen Magazine, Arsenic Lobster, The Raven Chronicles, and elsewhere. Originally from Lincoln Park, New Jersey, he now lives in Vancouver, Washington. He's an Oregon Literary Arts Fellowship recipient, Clark County Poet Laureate, and an avid, albeit unusually unsuccessful fisherman. He hopes one day to earn a Guinness record for the world's loudest clap. And I want to say on a personal note, Armin, just his way of being in the community, for me was a big inspiration for this reading series. So I feel like I've just learned from watching Armin be in the world. I'm so excited to hear it.
Yeah, what an attractive crowd we have out here tonight. My God. That's the best tonight. Whew, I feel like a sense of responsibility being at this mic after hearing these two amazing. Can I get I guarantee you, 10 years from now, you're gonna be talking to someone and you're gonna be like, whoa, that reminds me of that story I heard that one night. And for you'd be like, wow, do you remember what Annika said about time? And you're just gonna say that 10 years from now, I promise you that. Thank you so much, Juhea and Jessica, for creating such a thoughtful space here for us. I'm touched to be part of it. And what a way to end my work week, almost. I gotta work tomorrow. It doesn't really matter when I end, because whenever the work week ends, then I get to start my dread Sunday. And thinking about time and how much of it I've lost. But this poem that I'll start with is a true story of what happened to me on a Sunday. Another Sunday usurped mending tears. Another Sunday usurped mending tears in a world that can't hold its seams. The space-time crevasse I nicked in the kitchen wall between the air fryer and the soup tureen that's held nothing but shriveled flies, splits too far to ignore as the past dribbles through. A trilobite clatters its many tightened feet on the counter, and once again I, a man cursed by hesitation, miss the moment. It scurries before I can scoop it up and plunk it back in the Paleozoic as it becomes, in the present, just one more thing that'll need attending to. I scroll my phone for the fastest fix as I flick a broad spatula at the tear where tentacles and claws of history now pick the edges. On the other side, above the racket of mating pterosaurs, Phoenician warships, and the crack of Dutch axes on dodo necks, my grandmother pleads, "Apo, let me in. I want to see the future." I brush her off. "Sorry, Lola, this isn't a great time." When what I really mean is, I don't want you to see how I've wasted your dreams for me. When what I mean is, you're another thing tearing on a Sunday that has no daylight left. She's crying, I think, as I duct tape the hole. It's the best I know how to do. The trilobite, long gone, is fast and could be anywhere in this house, cutting shit up wherever it brushes its spines, piercing more holes for the past to pour through. More holes through which my ancestors peer and discover I've built nothing but patches through which I lose more and more of our blood and our names. I think the first time, or yeah, the time that we got to interact with each other, I've had the great privilege of being in these writing spaces with other great writers like these two, where we talk about craft, and there's always this introduction question of like, what's your name and what are you working on? I think for like the past 5-10 years, I don't know, it's been a long time. I keep saying something about like, oh, I'm writing poems about fishing and racial identity and masculinity and mental health. I think I'm still working on that. I don't know, it's been a while. What I thought I was working on 5-7 years ago, I don't know if that's what I'm still working on. I don't know if what I'm working on is going to be anything. None of these things are published. And at the same time, well, I'm glad I wrote these things. And I'm glad you all are listening to them. Thank you. Improve clinch knot. To undo this knot, you need a knife. That is, it's irreversible. Rehearse it in real weather, remorseless February, as you fuddle the loops 7, 13, whatever numerology quiets your doubt in the weakest point of the rig. That is, the number does and does not matter. There is a right and a wrong way to do this. And in between, a gray sea of luck. As you pull the ends towards finality, at some point, unless you're willing to cut it all off and start over, you have no choice but to keep on tightening to the knot's conclusion. No matter if the loops are bunched wrongly, clumsy disorder, you must continue. Like years ago, when Mama fed me milkfish and a pin bone thorned itself in the narthex of my throat. Maybe close enough for her to eel her finger in and scoop it out. But instead, she realized in the sudden winter of her terror, we were too far gone and could only move forward. So instead, shoved fingerfuls of rice in my mouth, an avalanche of sticky grains, catching the bone until interminable minutes later, it finished the path into my stomach's midnight. You'll know that feeling too, when you doubt you're not and cast anyway into the evening and wait to see if your luck holds fast. Inang Marcel Bait Shop and House of Oriental Grotesqueries. A tub of night crawlers. That's all I was after, and beer if they sold any. The last dry night of fall, last chance to pull the bullheads from the river before they dig their flat, hard heads beneath the scum for winter. But the door blows open before I can touch it. And Ninang chants my name 3 times as if we've met before and asks, "Have you called your night?" But I can tell she knows the answer, and I'm ashamed to look at her. Our people would never eat from this river. These fish are fleshed with lead and mercury. Mama, I know, is in my childhood home tonight, taking the hair I shed in her living room from a time when we still talked, each strand pinched between the only 2 fingers that still have feeling. And from them will weave a doll she'll pray for every evening. Santa Maria, Inay ng Diyos. Ninang doesn't ask me to close the door, daring me to step forward. The wind bites my neck, and I learn to survive it. Sometimes God closes a door I was taught, or opens a window, or does whatever he wants, clothed in divinity. But it's my choice to come inside if I dare face the grotesqueness of not knowing what's next. My hand, the hook in the river, on faith, waiting to be swallowed. We're all writers here, right? And a lot of times they're like, oh, well, writing is just a way to excuse me doing a lot of other things that I really want to be doing. So, you know, like, well, I'm doing all this kind of fishing. I can call that research and say that I'm actually, you know, I got to spend all this money and time on the river because, you know, I got to learn how to write these poems that I won't publish it. But, you know, there are a lot of things I learned because I'm from the East Coast, I'm from Jersey, and fishing in Jersey turned out to be different than fishing out here. And it was very territorial too. I'm like, oh, I don't know if you're allowed to be on this part of the river. And so, that came up for me a lot. And also just the idea of like how different, fishing is a thing amongst so many peoples, but it's done differently, and the values of what we call a trash fish, what's valuable. I find fascinating. And one thing that I found fascinating was like, when I was growing up, my dad, he'd always keep like the fish alive in like a bucket versus like killing the fish once you catch it. So I'll read these as sort of a point and counterpoint. Sorry, there's animals being harmed in this. Bleed the fish fast. Otherwise, you taste terror in the meat. Its fillets will stink with fear. Slice beneath the throat where the blood collects like the river's delta, flooded and warm. Your knife is a bow against the feathered strings of its gills. Draw across and its song bursts forth, bright scent of brass spatters your hands, your boots. You bleed it because it's wrong to watch it flail and bash itself in a leaking bucket, in a puddle of water meant to fool its spirit. Bleed the fish fast because you've been tossed in a leaking bucket many times before and were never fooled. Bleed it because it's practice for when you finally bite too hard one day and can't spit out your mistake. You bleed it to train your hand to set free your song fast before the fear can flood your flesh. Why he keep the fish alive? I think the fish is king. On your side. Why he keep the fish alive? Because silt stirs up like snow globe glitter and fills the flesh where the blood once was, petrifying the meat. Each bite is stiff with the mineral glaze of the river's bottom. If kept alive, the blood will slow, but hold its shape. And anyway, he never believed fear could taint meat, not the way he cooked it, boiled in the sour broth of tamarind or fried crisp with garlic and the tongue-stripping burn of sili labuyo. Restaurants keep their fish in tanks before the table. For a boy who never knew what it was to be served until the age of 22, all the fish he ever knew was salted and dried to survive the sun. A breathing fish was living proof his life had turned into deeper springs. And though he'd never admit it, a seagull could knock the bucket over. Or the fish, with one last push through its cramps and gasping, could leap free and flop on the banks back to water. He'd hate that to happen. But it's one thing to take a life and another thing entirely to take away its hope. I'm all that getting in the way between you and some amazing snacks up there. This last poem, sorry, it had no fish in it. I just wanted to read it. But in this, I still have no idea what the title of this poem is. I don't speak Tagalog fluently. I'm not even close. And I think there's a Tagalog word for what I'm feeling or trying to say, and it might be the word pamana. It might be utang ng loob. In English, I've been using the word duty, and I'm fluent in English, and I still don't know the right word. So maybe you can know all the words in the world and still not have the right word. doing my best with this one. Pamana or utang ng loob or duty. I need to wash my worries. I have to fold my worries. I need to sort and store my worries where I can have them at the ready, where I can find when I need it most, the worry that matches the moment. I have to mend the worries I've had so long, they've worn through to gauze. I patch worries with old worries. I refuse to throw any away. Most I don't even know how I got. Most I am certain draped my mother's shoulders first. My cherished ones were sewn by the fingers of my ancestors who had nothing else to leave their children for inheritance. I need to care for my worries. I'm filled with peace when I wrap my arms around a freshly cleaned heap of my worries and string them on a length of mourning to dry. One glittering moment that I am naked of worries. I love to see them breathe in the sun. Thank you.
Wow, I've got to say again, thank you so much, readers. Thank you, Armin. I'm moved. Breathe for a minute. Thank you for being here, everybody. We're having another one of these in a month. Yeah, on February 16th, we have Ari Schill, Manuel Aragon, and Lisa Lee. We hope you come back. And I understand Annika has some books with them that, you could hit Annika up for one of those. Armin books. Armin's got some books. Juhea books.
I didn't bring any for sale, but they're available at house and anywhere books are sold.
Yes, they're widely available. So, I hope that what you heard here tonight inspires you to want to take some of that home with you. And there are refreshments upstairs if you're comfortable in a mask optional space. We have still a little bit of time to mingle. So say hello, get to know someone. Thank you.
Yeah. Yes, but you're